I am going to discuss approach to case studies in ethics paper. And I found most answers on case studies are very trivial. There is no depth and no analysis, and students are writing a big answer without any content. They give diagrams, examples, tables, but all put together finally say very little. It's very superficial. But are they superficial simply because they don't have any knowledge, or they are generally careless? It is not so. Because going by their essays, I find when they are writing essays, they are very careful. Because they know that if they miss the essay, that attempt is gone. And more structured, and they try to attempt the question. So basically, students struggle in writing a good essay. But same is not the case with case studies. Okay. So I find when it comes to case studies, their attitude is different. They consider the question silly. Often it is indeed silly, and answer is obvious. Answer is often obvious. In real life, the answer may not be obvious, but in the examination, the answer is obvious. That is the kind of questions they are asking. And they know what the UPSC expects. Okay. So they don't think there is much to think. Not much to think. So they are simply filling up pages. They give diagrams, tables, compare and contrast, examples, but that finally don't convey anything or convey very little. So I am planning to discuss why answers are superficial and what are the mental blocks that are responsible for these superficial answers. Let us look at them. First of all, after a case, after some description, they give questions A, B, C, D, like this. And students think that say it is a 20 marks question, it is 20 marks question anyway. So they try to handle each question independently, though they are interrelated and repetitive actually. So they try to write independent answer for each question And because they are asking similar issues, they tend to repeat, because of which the answer becomes superficial. So to avoid this, I am proposing a different approach. How to treat the end questions. First, don't jump to answer the end question. Treat the end questions as interdependent. Develop an overall approach to all the end questions, though paying attention to some minor differences among them when you are answering specifically. So treat the entire case study as a kind of a 300-word essay. I am using the word essay because when I say essay, you tend to be careful. So don't treat them independently. But what does that mean? My suggestion is that develop a common content for all the questions. See, I am saying content like this. There is a common content. Develop a common content. And then after writing the common content, answer like this. This avoids repetition. Okay. So, develop a common content for all the questions. What is the common content? First, what the case is. What is the case? Write the case as you understand it, in simple terms, as a matter of fact, no judgment. For this, you read the question carefully, underlining the important actors and events. Simply narrate the case as you see it, identifying the crucial things. Next, list stakeholders. And next, third, the ethical issue under which the question comes broadly. These three things can constitute the common content. Okay. And then after that, you can go to answer specific questions in the end. Okay. This is the approach. But then I found this is about the approach, but there is one more thing, is that the students are see, the source of superficiality is that students don't see the scope of the question. By scope, I mean what all can be part of the answer. What are the substantive issues that case rises? So they don't identify the substantive issues that the case rises. And once they identify these issues, they will find there is a lot to write, and when they find there is a lot to write, then triviality will come down or it will disappear. So my focus is on identifying the substantive issues that the case study raises and write about those issues. That gives depth to the answer. Okay. So now we will take an example and follow this approach. This is a 2021 question. An elevated corridor, underlined like this, an elevated corridor is being constructed to reduce traffic congestion in the capital of a particular state. You have been selected as a project manager. You are a project manager on this prestigious project on your professional competence. The deadline is to complete this in the next 2 years. Since this project is to be inaugurated by the Chief Minister before the elections are announced. Okay. While carrying out the surprise inspection by inspecting team, a minor crack was noticed in one of the piers of the corridor, probably due to poor material used. You immediately informed the chief engineer and stopped further work. You said that a minimum of 3 elevated corridor piers must be demolished and reconstructed, but this process will delay the project. Minimum by 6 months, 4 to 6 months. But the chief engineer overruled the observation of the inspecting team on the ground that it was a minor crack which not in any way impact the strength or durability of the bridge. He ordered you to overlook the observations of the inspecting team and continue working with the same speed and tempo. He informed you that the minister doesn't want any delay, as he wants the chief minister to inaugurate before the elections. He also informed you that the contractor is a far relative of the minister and wants him to finish the project. He also hinted that your further promotion as an additional chief engineer is under consideration. Okay. However, you strongly felt that the minor crack in the piers would adversely affect the health and life of the bridge, and therefore it will be hazardous not to repair. Under the given conditions, what are the options available to you? Ethical dilemmas. What are the professional challenges? And what can be the consequences of overlooking observation raised by the inspecting team? Asked in 2020. So, underline like this and write case as you see and stakeholders. You, inspecting team, chief engineer, chief minister, and contractor, and public. Okay. I notice that the students don't really write much on this. They start judging. This is a case of wrong construction or corruption or things like that. They start judging it, but instead of explaining what the case is about. So this is an important step. Do it in a neutral and non-judgmental way, because you are going to judge later, and use simple words. Stakeholders. These students are doing. Next step is ethical issues. Okay. So, under what issue this will come? What issue? I would say this comes under whether a public servant should blindly go by authority or go by public interest. Should one go by authority or go by public interest as he sees it? As he sees it with conscience. This is the issue. So this ethical issue you have to identify. Okay. Do you know where this comes under in the syllabus? This is one very important issue, going blindly by authority. It comes under in the syllabus like this. The attitude section, social influence and persuasion. Under persuasion. Another name for persuasion is conformity. Conformity. So this comes under, in any ethics book, under conformity studies, dealing with cases of blind obedience. Okay. You can also say this comes under public and civil service values and rules, conscience as a source of ethical guidance. Conscience. Okay. So I am saying that this issue is big, very big issue, and there is a lot of theory. So here you have to know what is the theory behind this issue. This issue of blind obedience, the issue of what you are calling conformity. So, broader issue of conformity, and then next issue of role of civil service. Because the project manager is a civil servant, and what actually is expected role of him. Conformity is in general, whether he is a public servant or private person, it is in general. But his role as a public servant comes under the broader issue of role of civil service. So, whatever you study under conformity studies and role of civil service should be part of your answer. Not simply your option of follow chief engineer or delay, okay, like this. No. So students are giving these options and then elaborate reasons, pros and cons of every option. Okay, and they write 3 pages on this small thing, making the answer very superficial, without raising these issues. So if you raise these substantive issues, then answer will have depth and it will not be trivial. This is my point. But briefly, let us discuss what come under conformity studies. First of all, why are the conformity studies important? Why are they started? You know, Hitler's bureaucracy committed atrocities on Jews. Okay. But after the World War II, when officers defended themselves, they simply said, we are following the orders from above. So millions of Jews are killed by officers who are simply following the orders from above. So after the war, many social scientists wondered why do people behave like this? And is it a general phenomenon? Was it specific to particular German case, or is it a universal phenomenon? So some social scientists conducted experiments on this. For example, Milgram is one psychologist, social psychologist, who asked subjects blindly obey him and administer electric shocks to people who are this is like this is an experimenter here and subject here. Subject is administering shocks to somebody who pretends to feel pain and shout. So Milgram wanted to say how much of voltage that this subject will administer to him under the conditions of authority. So even though this man is shouting, feeling extreme pain, and but still this man, the subject, is administering shocks. And when asked why, I'm just following what the experimenter has said and I am not responsible. So this is a typical case of persons not feeling responsible and doing things without their independent judgment. This is blind obedience to authority. So Milgram showed that many people are willing to administer electric shocks to very, very lethal level simply because an experimenter is saying that I am responsible and you are not responsible. They are not using their independent judgment. This is one of the conformity studies. And then there is one more study by Zimbardo. This is called Stanford Prison Experiment. Stanford Prison Experiment, where the students are divided as prisoners, some as prisoners or some as prison guards. Prisoners are like this and prison guards are like this. And within few days, prison guards began torturing the prisoners so much that the prisoners were traumatized. So though they know exactly they were only part of an experiment and they were not really prisoners, nor these people were really prison guards, but they behaved like prison guards and then they were very violent. All because they thought they should do as the experiment. Prison guards thought that they should do as per the experiment without seeing how human they are. So Zimbardo concludes that people are capable of inhuman activities under certain conditions. And so he proposes what he calls disobedience training. People should be trained to disobey and go by their conscience. And other conformity studies show, conformity studies on judging, for example, length of a line, show that if one disagrees, others will. So if one disagrees and goes by his judgment, independent judgment, others will follow. But if everybody is doing it, then there is a strong pressure for the other to conform. So in general, these are the conformity studies. So Zimbardo says there should be disobedience training and going by conscience, and otherwise if people go blindly by the authority, then any kind of atrocious things are possible, as in Hitler's Jewish case. Okay, so these are the issues. And then this question also rises of civil service. Okay, role of civil service. Because this rises, because people will ask, see, there is a minister, and a minister is telling the officer to obey. Doesn't officer have the responsibility to obey the minister or his superior chief engineer? Shouldn't he go by this blindly and or go by the authority? So here there are issues related to what is supposed to be the bureaucracy. Okay, so there are theories related to nature of bureaucracy. Okay, what was the old version as thought by Weber, and what is the new approach? So Weber is an important thinker in this context. So let us see what Weber said. See, Weber's model of ideal type is that bureaucrat is only a tool, an instrument. He has no conscience, no compassion, no values other than working as per the rules. This model is rejected now. The current one is that bureaucrat is a person with a conscience, with compassion, with values of public spiritedness, not to go by the rules blindly. So with his conscience he has to apply his judgment. And judgment for what? For public interest, in the pursuit of common interest. So theoretically, what is civil service for? Civil service is accountable, first of all, not just to the minister. Remember, he is accountable to the minister, but not just to the minister. He is accountable to the institutions like legislature and judiciary. And a civil servant is to work on behalf of the citizens for common good, in public interest. This is what civil service is for. So he is not go by authority, chief engineer or chief minister or minister, because he is accountable to the citizens in the end. So this is how the ethical dilemma can be placed in the larger context, which means it is about conformity studies, is in general, and then civil service, and what is expected of civil service. Okay, so role of civil service in the system. So if you identify like this, then you will place the ethical dilemma in the larger context and then go for answering ABCD. Okay. So you answer it totally, so showing some minor differences between them. So that you handle it in total. Okay. This is my approach. So essentially, identify substantive issues. Identify substantive issues and include them. Okay. Then triviality comes down, and the answer will have depth. And explain things. People are simply drawing diagrams and points and things like that without explaining. This explanation is important. But once you see the depth, I think you will have tendency to explain also. Okay. And before ending, I want to tell you that I posted material on, or there is already there material on Milgram study, Stanford prison experiment, and Zimbabwe disobedience at this website, penmanias.in. You can download the material. So we will do few more case studies to consolidate this approach. Thank you.